Hey, what's up? You guys like war metal? How about how about Arcturus? You like Arcturus? You like Enslaved? This is just too much fun. All my intros are just gonna be me playing with these stupid filters. All right, so we're back. Had myself some lunch. That's about it. Had myself some lunch. Made the wife some lunch. Now we're gonna listen to recent acquisition here, Crush, Kill, Destroy by the almighty Spazz. Late 90s release. Power violence hardcore with a sense of humor and lots and lots and lots of sound clips. One of my favorite records from the time. I believe it was 98. First time I traveled cross country. Blasted this the whole time after I picked it up. Not hearing it. Oh, there we go. Anyway, so we're here to talk about tapes this time. Same thing with the LPs and stacking up. A bunch of these I actually got when we visited Raleigh. Got to go to the almighty Sorry State Records, check out their somewhat small but very powerful location. I did not buy any LPs. I didn't have time to look, as I mentioned. Hot outside. My family was nice enough to wait for me for 10 minutes, so I just grabbed a bunch of tapes and a bunch of 7 inches. I already talked about the 7 inches. Now I'm going to talk about some of the tapes. I bought a lot of tapes. They were very cheap, so I bought a bunch of them. And the rest are just, distro stuff I got in the mail, whatever. This was a Bandcamp purchase. Chris Callahan's new band, Oxygen Tank. It's just straightforward, slightly kind of metal-tinged hardcore. His signature vocal style, kind of raw-throated, shouty. Good, straightforward, hardcore stuff. I'm not sure where this is based out of. I know Chris is Canadian, but I think the other members might be American. The other member, Morgan Carpenter, or what his previous projects are, I don't know. But cool kind of cut and paste layout there. Yellow shell. Acheron Lex Talionis. This is, Floridian satanic death metal from the early 90s. Vincent Crowley. And I loved their debut, Rites of the Black Mass. I had some later records I wasn't as into. This is more akin to the first album that they did. It's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more technical slightly, but it's just straightforward bulldozing, satanic death metal stuff. Unfortunately, like the first album, there are a lot of, way too long interludes between the songs. And I think this guy's a chud, too, which I'm not too stoked on, but what are you gonna do? It's reissued on Alcoholic Holocaust. This is a reissue of a band called Reflex from Pain. Cassette discography. Checkered Future. Might just be the Checkered Future record, actually, now that I think of it. But regardless, Reflex from Pain were an early 80s Connecticut hardcore band that featured future members of 76% Uncertain and Youth of Today. And again, it's not reinventing the wheel, scrappy, teenage, adolescent, pissed off hardcore punk rock stuff. Quick, kind of sloppy songs. I believe Ray of Today played drums in this band. Then we've got Mystery, and this is a banger. Mystery Paradise. This is a 6-song EP. Band is from New York, if I'm not mistaken. Cool mix of styles, kind of like the Electric Chair. It brings to mind a bunch of bands that are all kind of differing. They're not going for a period-specific thing. I think a lot of it might appeal to fans of Japanese hardcore and some faster American hardcore, but there's a good kind of variation in the sound. It gets a bit noisy and a bit feedbacky here and there, but it's definitely not like your typical smelly kid yelling into a garbage can kind of fare. It's very good. Mystery. Paradise. Rules. And then I got this band Tetanus, who I believe are from the Raleigh area. They're from somewhere in the south, if I'm not mistaken. I think even Sorry State might have put this out. And this is that noisy, falling apart kind of stuff, which isn't half bad, but if it's really, really chaotic and sloppy, it's not really my cup of tea. There is a line of demarcation that I just don't go past with certain stuff like that. But if you like sloppy and chaotic punk, maybe check out Tetanus. Then we got Flag of Democracy, Down with People. Classic Philly hardcore punk band. This was a Sorry State pickup. 4 Bones. I always knew of this band very early on because the Dead Milkmen mentioned them. Going down to the hardcore show to see F.O.D. I think some of their earlier records would have been a little bit more straightforward. This has some fast, like, punkish hardcore on it, like half of it or so. The other half is, like, decent, but is kind of almost sort of, like, kind of weird college rocky kind of punk, which I'm not mad at. I like that, you know. But I'd be interested in hearing some of their other stuff to see how it measures up. Not sure exactly when this came out. Sometime in the 80s, I believe. Later 80s, if I'm not... Revolution 90 is one of the songs, so I'm going to say around 90. But yeah, I'd like to hear their stuff from maybe the mid-80s and see if it's a little bit rawer and crazier. Baby Chico. Metallica and Justice for All. You might have heard of these guys. It's their 4th record. They're a thrash metal band from the Bay Area, California. In all seriousness, I picked this up I got hit with that mental illness known as nostalgia as soon as I saw this in the racks. I do own a reissue of this on CD, I think. I picked up the remastered. One of my first metal tapes ever was a cassette copy of And Justice for All. I think I was in some kind of summer camp, some kind of acting thing, which my parents wanted me to do, never panned out. It was in The Tempest by Bill Shakespeare, but I digress. Anyway, an older kid was like, yeah, you got to check out this band. I think I'd seen one on MTV at the time. It was in rotation on MTV, and I just picked it up. I think at that point I'd already heard Anthrax, Fistful of Metal, and Game Over by Nuclear Assault. Those were my 2 kind of extreme metal tapes, and this blew me away. I mean, if anybody experienced like this era of music and being a kid and only being able to afford a few things here and there with your allowance, you listen to shit into the ground whether you liked it or not. And if you really loved it, you listened to it until it wore the format out. And that's exactly what I did with this. And I mean, you know, Dyer's Eve, that's the ultimate I hate your parents song. Dear mother, dear father. Also, I love the lyrics, you know. It was such an about face from all the stuff that Hetfield wrote on this about, you know, America falling apart and justice being destroyed and everything, to like the Don't Tread on Me song from the Black Album a few years later. And you know what? Also, one last thing about this. I think the no bass thing just kind of works for it. It makes it sound drier and weirder and darker. You know, there's a few bands I listen to that don't have basses that are either like 2 pieces or whatever, and it can work. I think it works for this. It sucks that Jason Newsted got screwed and all that, but and I've heard the remixed versions with the bass, and it sounds cool. You know, guy can play. Not that he's playing on those, but I digress again. I am very verbose. All right, now Incubus, God Died on His Knees demo. This is Mike Browning Incubus, not the Incubus that changed their name and went Christian. This is just one of those legendary type of tapes, like the Necrovore tape, going back to the late 80s, proto-death metal stuff. Kind of like these weird spoken, shouted kind of vocals. Hard to explain. You know, they're predating death growls, sort of, and it just kind of almost sounds like a guy talking very loudly and forcefully in a deep, gruff voice, to me. The music's like that really intense kind of thrash that's predating death metal a little bit. I like it. You know, I know that this is a legendary thing, legendary release. I'm pretty sure I've listened to it a bunch of times on YouTube here and there just to check it out. But I wanted to make sure I had a physical copy of it. Virgin Steel, Noble Savage. Picked it up. at residency in town for a couple of bucks. Virgin Steel is one of those like U.S. power metal bands that's been around forever. I know later on they get a lot more almost kind of symphonic and really involved. This is a good balance of like classic kind of U.S. heavy metal stuff with some more cock rock and numbers, and it's good. Jersey band, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty classic stuff. Came out on Cobra in the mid 80s, 85. I enjoy it. Not as much as other stuff like that, but I enjoy it. Mortification, Live Planetarium. I'm sorry. I'll see myself out. Yeah, if you know Mortification, it's good, solid Christian death metal from down under. This is, I believe, right after Scrolls of the Megaloth came out. They do a Bloodgood cover on here, which is, that's really something. It's right before the one after Scrolls came out, I believe. But as far as live recordings go, sounds great. Good kind of overview of the band up to that point. Great, precise, heavy death metal stuff. They've got a bunch of stuff from the first album, which I really liked a lot. I got that back in the day. The title track from Scrolls of the Megaloth, Human Condition, Majestic Infiltration of Order. Good stuff. Messiah from Switzerland. This is a nice, faithful reproduction of their demo, Power Trash. That sort of ESL thing where people think trash and thrash is the same word. Did a good job reproducing like an old school cassette shell there, like the scrawled handwriting. Messiah is a weird band. They're a good band. I like a lot of their stuff. This is, I think, the earliest material that they recorded, including Antichrist, pure hardcore, it says on here. There's a few like punk-leaning songs on this. Like they're going for almost sort of a crossover thing on this, which is interesting because I know some of their stuff is lighthearted later on too, but some of it's almost like proto-black metal. And there's a lot of that on this. It's got that sort of almost Teutonic kind of feel, kind of goofy skater thrash at moments too. It's cool. It's a good recording, even though it's raw. I'd check it out. It's album length, pretty much. I pick and choose with my more melodic death metal stuff. Let me flip this over, by the way. Like I said, I'm picky and choosy about my melodic death metal stuff. A lot of that sort of mellow death stuff. I find that the earliest incarnations of those bands are pretty appealing to me. So I picked up the first Dark Tranquility, Skydancer, and I love this. I'll have to check out, kind of cautiously explore what they turn into later on. I know they're still around to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I know they got a lot more melodic later on, but this is a super intense blast of like almost like blackened thrash melodic death metal kind of stuff from Sweden. And in a lot of ways it kind of reminds me, I'm trying to think exactly who it reminds me of. It's not coming to me right now. Like very early At the Gates, when, as opposed to later At the Gates, it reminds me of almost like The Red in the Sky Is Ours and that kind of stuff, and even like some Grotesque stuff. And the band that came out of Grotesque from other guys with Necrolord, it's not coming to me. I'll put it right here. Reminds me of that band a lot. Melodic, but very almost technical at the same time. Like they've been listening to a fair amount of Atheist and that sort of thing, and weaving it with like the traditional heavy metal melodies. Very intense, emotionally dense kind of stuff. Laaz Rockit, The City's Gonna Burn. I'm getting some wow and flutter here. It's kind of a bummer. Brand new tape too. This is earlier Laaz Rockit. This is a little bit more on the US power metal and speed metal tip. A little less like forceful, heavy thrash. A little bit more straightforward. It's got, a very strong sort of melodic metal vocal to it, as well as some great lead work. Everything you'd expect from metal of this era from the Bay Area. Monastery, Ripping Terror 91. This is a cool little project. I believe it formed out of like a bunch of bands playing at Dynamo. It's got members of Carbonized, one guy from Carbonized, who was in a bunch of other Swedish projects, and two guys from Sinister. And the aforementioned Ceremony from a couple updates back, who were like Sinister Jr., one of those guys was in both. But it's just a few songs on here, like 4-song demo. They got divvied up into split 7 inches later, but this was the only recording session. It's just raw, basic, kind of grind, kind of death metal stuff from Europe, 91. Seventh Angel, Lament for the Weary, another Christian band. Saw this at Sorry State, and I just fell in love with the cover art. I love it. I don't know if it's the same guy who's done like Skyclad and Sabbath stuff, but it's definitely along those lines. Very like Arthurian Dungeons and Dragons, which is kind of funny considering they're Christian, you know? But to me, this is a really cool mix of thrash metal and doom, done in a way that I've never really heard it done before. A lot of the heavier, slower parts are sort of akin to like Solitude Aeternus, I'd say, but the vocal style and the faster parts remind me of Cerebral Fix and Sabbath. It sounds very British, and it's really, really good. Just very well composed. Great listen. Just a random find, $3. Bought it sight unseen, you know, just going by the cover. It's cool. Jello Biafra with DOA, Last Scream of the Missing Neighbors. Like a lot of projects that Jello sings with, usually they try to kind of fit his style, it seems like, and this just kind of, to me, sounds like more Dead Kennedys, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not to say that that DOA is a world away from Dead Kennedys sound-wise, you know. It's a really tight, kind of plucky, pissed-off punk stuff. The cool thing about this is there's a very long song on side B called Full Metal Jackoff that is a big exploration into the drug war of the 80s, the government kind of injecting hard drugs and hard narcotics into low-income black neighborhoods, and the way the CIA exploited people in those areas and everything. And it's like a lot of Jello stuff, you know, some of it's obviously hyperbolic and kind of like weirdly paranoid, but a lot of it is true too. So lyrically, that's a cool song. The rest of it's just like fast, pissed off, you know, Jello's token vocal style, Fred Schneider on a meth bender, you know, love it or hate it. Good stuff. This is a head split reissue of some early Nasty Savage stuff, Wage of Mayhem. It's got their demo from 84 on one side and some rehearsals from 84 on the other. Very raw, straightforward, kind of proto thrash metal stuff. Nasty Ronnie was a semi-pro wrestler, and that's kind of shows in like his his stage banter and stuff. You can tell he's an entertainment, he's a showman. The first song, Unchained Angel, has like the roughest sounding chorus because they're going for like a more melodic, kind of typical early 80s metal approach, and like Unchained Angel sounds like they're yelling the words as the chorus. Unchained Angel over and over again, and it's like oi shouts, you know. It's definitely like I'm gonna get hit in the head with a fucking glass mug at the glass mug, brass mug, that's the one in Florida. Then we've got Haunted. This was recommended to me from Ben. There's Grimtooth's Very Metal Things, which is a tape distro. They're on Instagram under that name, Grimtooth's Very Metal Things. Dude sent me a paper catalog, and I was like super pumped on that. I haven't gotten one of those in the mail in quite a while, since the Relapse days. But this is like a new old stock, just an old death metal band. This is 1992. They're from the US. I don't know where off the top of my head, but it's very like kind of twisted, scary death metal, not unlike early Incantation, stuff like that. Early Immolation, very murky and twisty, and all of the time too. Not a modern band doing this. Also, bonus points for taking, I believe, Ravenloft art, which I believe, I think Burzum already also stole this and just turned it black and white. But yeah, just good, solid early 90s death metal stuff. Nunslaughter, One Night in Hell. This is a live recording from 2001 in Lakewood, Ohio. Nunslaughter's on full tilt on this. Real funny. Forked tongues firmly planted in cheek on this. And, you know, great stage banter. Their early material, I mean, most of their material's pretty consistent, you know, just ripping, straightforward, blasphemous death metal stuff. Very, very, very good. Good times, fun listen. Atrophy, Violent by Nature. So I got a reissue of their demo a while back, and I listened to my people who watch my channel were kind enough to dedicate their time watching me babble into a webcam, usually poorly. They told me to give Atrophy another shot. I think I said something about I heard their 2 albums when I was coming up, thought they were pretty generic, but a lot of people rode for this, said, hey, you know, actually the two records are good. They're a little bit more, you know, heavier than a lot of the typical Bay Area stuff. It's the other one with the Jester on the cover is comparable to Creator, somebody said. I like this. This is good. All the way through banger, no, but definitely first track on the first side rips, and there's some pretty good smoking up-tempo thrashers on this. I think I never got around that fucking cover art. It's fucking bad. Keeping up with the thrash. I paid a little bit more for this than I kind of wanted to. The price was right, you know, it's what it was worth. I'm glad I did. It's the Eastern Front comp, live at Ruthies Inn. There were 2 previous Eastern Front compilations that were punk, hardcore, that kind of stuff, West Coast shit. And this is, I guess, the continuation into thrash by the mid-'80s, late 80s. And it's just a who's who of awesome bands at the time. There's some hardcore on here still, like Raw Power, D.R.I., still during their hardcore era. There's Forbidden Evil on here before they just turned into Forbidden. Also Legacy before they turned into Testament. Blind Illusion, Aftermath, Death Angel, Heathen, Sacrilege BC, and then some stuff I've never heard of. Well, you got Hex and Violence on here and Sentinel Beast, but then some stuff I'm not familiar with. A band called Bloodbath. There's a lot of those. Messiah, Anti-Mob. Never heard of them. Tyrannicide, I think I've heard of, but I wasn't familiar with them. Anyway, it sounds live. It's a live recording. Sounds like off the soundboard style. So it varies from band to band how tight they were playing, but it's a cool snapshot. It's a nice little comp to throw on. You know, I play it in the kitchen all the time. Not all the time, but a few times while I've been cooking so far, and the food's been delicious. So we're good. Then we got Anal Vomit, Demoniac Flagellations. I really liked Anal Vomit for quite a while when I was getting back into black and thrash and death metal around 2008, 2009. The band is from Chile, if I'm not mistaken. This is I think the last record that they did, or 3rd record that they did, and it's somewhere in between, like, it sounds like early Destruction with the piercing thing that the vocals do, and like more kind of bestial South American stuff. They can write a heck of a riff. Very fucking good, catchy band. I almost want to backtrack and get their earlier records again. I had some of their stuff, and I think I sold it. I'm not sure why. And then, last but not least, the Killing Frost tape, Declaration of WW. This is guys from Foreseen. Bunch of Finnish dudes doing metallic hardcore that's really influenced by like Those Who Fear Tomorrow era Integrity and Sheer Terror and Celtic Frost. And it's super heavy, it's moshy, but it's raw. It has a definite like early 90s sort of recording quality. And if that sounds good to you, you know, it sounds like it would be on Dutch East India Trading or some shit like that back in those days. It's great, you know. You throw on some camo pants, maybe a basketball jersey. Get down, shave your head. That's about it. That's it for tapes. CDs next.